This year marks the 10th anniversary of China's entry into the World Trade Organization. On November 10th of 2001, a WTO ministerial meeting in Doha, Qatar, accepted China as the organization's 143rd member. Now, the past decade has witnessed China rising to become the world's second largest economy and the biggest global exporter, with the value of China's 2010 international trade surpassing 30 trillion US dollars, a 140% boost from what it was in 2001. WTO General Director Pascal Lamy spoke highly of China's performance during its 10-year membership, saying that China's entry into the WTO not only brought significant changes to China, but also benefited other members and the world at large. So how do Chinese net users view China's 10-year anniversary as a member of WTO? And what kind of changes do they think China has experienced over the years? Well, to get an idea of what's going on in the online community, let's cross over to the newsroom where China Take researcher Esther Deng is standing by. All right, thank you for joining us, Esther. Now, it's been 10 years and quite a ride for China in terms of economic and social progress. So what are Chinese posters saying about it right now?
Well, Lionel, interestingly, this 10 years anniversary has made lots of net users here to think of the past. For example, we have this comment on Sohu.com. Few countries tried every means like China to enter the world economy, which used to be considered as a capitalist world system. 10 years ago, entering WTO brought lots of deep concerns to this country. People feared that some uncompetitive enterprises would reduce staff or even go bankruptcy. And Huang Zhongqing can't agree more, saying on the Hong Kong-based South China Morning Post. 10 years ago, Chinese people had both hope and fear about the entry into WTO. On one hand, we are worried about the competition between Chinese companies and foreign companies, while on the other hand, we expected more and more Chinese products would enter the world market. But now, 10 years later, it's hard to imagine China without a world economy or a world economy without China. And we also have Long Guoqiang, who shared his idea on Sina.com. China's economy has gained steady and fast development over the past years. And now we are the world number 2 in terms of GDP. And after entering WTO, both the country and its people have become more open-minded.
Okay, Esther, now what you said is all well and good, but I'm sure some people feel that China's entry into the WTO is more like a two-edged sword. So have there been any negative effects that have been put forward by net users?
Yeah, you're quite right. Lots of posters here sharply point out some problems they think have to be solved. First, Zhao Juling has this on eState.com. Compared with the goods trade, our service trade has been suffering a trade deficit since China entered WTO. And what's worse, the deficit is going to be enlarged, and the U.S. has become our largest deficit source. And Wu Xiaobo, a famous economic expert, writes on QQ.com. The mode of economic growth has to be changed. We still haven't reached the goal of stimulating the economy by consumption. Since our social welfare isn't satisfactory, people still prefer to put their money in bank. And based on the comments I've found, I noticed that the monopoly in some core industries in China has caused the strongest opposition. Like this take from Shangshan. To be honest, I never feel entering WTO has brought any difference. The oil, railway, electric power, and communication industries are still controlled by the government, and we seldom see foreign or private investment enter the banking and finance industries. Except for the heavy living burden, I haven't seen any changes. And also, Andao Yonghua shared this idea by commenting on Weibo.com. Over the past decade, China's economy does gain fast development, but at the same time, we have entered an era of trade frictions. Among all the anti-dumping investigations, half were against China. And most importantly, lots of industries in China, like banking and publishing, haven't really opened. Even till today, over 30 countries, including the US, EU, and Japan, haven't recognized China's market economy status. But not everybody is on this side of the fence. For example, we have Ban Xian on QQ.com. The economic reforms in China doesn't mean we always study from the Western pattern. Monopoly is necessary in certain fields, although it's unfair, but it's good for stability. And after the financial crisis, it's quite possible for Western countries to change their economic policies by learning from China.
Okay, well, finally, Esther, I want to ask, what kind of impact has China's entry into the WTO had on people's daily lives? Do people feel any changes were made in their own personal lives?
Well, in this aspect, there are both praises and complaints. First, let's hear some positive comments. This poster makes the following comparisons on 163.com. 10 years ago, the number of goods on Chinese market was about 400,000, while the number of goods on the world market was over 1.4 million. Nowadays, we can find almost every foreign brand here in China. And the luxury brands like MS, Prada all consider China as their second home. And this poster focuses on the educational field. After entering the WTO, Chinese educational market has to be open to the world, and lots of foreign English training organizations came into China ever since. And more parents who have become wealthier began to send their kids to study abroad. It's almost impossible for them to do so 10 years ago when the information of studying abroad wasn't so easy to get, and people didn't have so many chances to learn English. But as I said before, there are plenty of complaints as well. For example, this indignant poster who asks on 换球.com, I admit that our economy has witnessed fast development, but what about our ordinary people's standard of living? And finally, 非党人士 makes a detailed list of his dissatisfaction on his blog. The current household registration system and the purchase limit policies on cars and houses still cause lots of inconvenience in our daily lives. And the land sources aren't sold according to the market rule, so that our housing prices are so high. And our tax burden is still too heavy. The government's fiscal revenue increases dramatically every year, but our standard of living improves quite slowly.
Well, hopefully the next 10 years will be just as eventful. Thanks, Esther. And that was China Take researcher Esther Deng with reaction to the 10-year anniversary of China's inclusion into the WTO. Coming up next, China's top searches, what's hot and trending on China's search engines.